Wonderland Spectacle Company presents
Turkeys!
Hey, come look, there's turkeys in our backyard. And I'm the Wonderland Spectacle Company. No one else is here today, so I'm running it. And I'm scouting for turkeys. Ouch! A brief history of New England turkeys.
English colonists found wild turkeys were plentiful in Massachusetts when they arrived in the 1600s. That was because Wampanoag, Massachusetts, and other indigenous people had cared for the lands and creatures so all would thrive. But turkeys disappeared as English settlers overhunted them and cut down too many trees for farms, firewood, and building. At Mount Tom in Holyoke during the winter of 1850 to 51, the last recorded wild turkey in Massachusetts was shot by a hunter. 60 years later in the 1910s, the state began trying to bring back wild turkeys, but they didn't have success for half a century. The problem was farm-raised turkeys. Hatched in captivity, the birds didn't know how to elude fox, people, and other predators. In 1972, state wildlife officials tried a new approach.
Let's visit the MassWildlife headquarters in Westboro to learn more.
I'm Jim Cardoza. I'm a retired wildlife biologist for MassWildlife, and I was in charge of the wild turkey restoration program in Massachusetts from 1969 to 2009. Turkeys were very rare in the United States in the early 20th century. They were not common at all. They had almost disappeared. They had disappeared in all the states north of Pennsylvania, and people were just trying to manage the population by cutting hunting seasons and doing things like that. What was little known then is that much of what a turkey needs to know to survive in the wild is learned behavior. It's not inherited. Some things are. They know how to feed. But in order to survive and evade predators and all that, they learn that from the hen turkey, their mother. That was a key point, that if we were going to restore turkeys, we had to use wild trap birds from a northerly state. But then we have to get somebody that's willing to help us out, and the state of New York was. That first year, myself and another person went out to western New York, and we worked with others that were from their state who knew where a good place to bait was and that type of thing. And they helped us catch the 7 birds. It was winter. Trapping, it was generally more practical in the winter because they're hungry. You put out bait and get them to come to the bait site. We use scratch feed, cracked corn, wheat, and oats. And the turkeys find it. And after they're used to it for a while, you go back early in the morning, depending on when. Sometimes you can tell it's morning or afternoon by just checking it. And you hide either in a blind some distance away, or if you're doing it in a farmyard, you can sit in a vehicle. And when they come and start feeding on this pile of bait, and you fire it, it makes a heck of a bang. And it propels the net over the top of the turkeys and tangles them up. And then you and your assistants run over and get them out and put them in boxes. When we released them in Beartown, but it was snowy, and we couldn't get anywhere past the building that was the headquarters, even with a 4-wheel drive. But there was a dead-end road that went down to a few houses that butted up against the forest, and at the end of that, there was a big field. So we drove down to the end of the road where the last house was, which was plowed, and took the boxes up and let them go there. When they flew out of the box, they just flew off into the woods.
released into the woods in western Massachusetts, then how did they find their way into my city backyard?
For the first few years, we knew they were there, but they didn't appear to be doing much. Then in the next 2 years, they were spreading out into surrounding towns, and by the late 1970s, they were well over most of Berkshire County and a couple of the adjoining areas. So we knew it was going to work. We just didn't know at that time how well it was going to work. We moved them from the Berkshires to places throughout western, central, and southeastern Mass. As time went on, we just kept putting them where we thought they would work, and most they did. But we didn't know that because the habitat requirements weren't really known, because during this period when they mostly disappeared due to habitat loss and very lengthy hunting seasons, they were only up in the very remote mountains, big huge blocks of hardwood and so on. We thought that's the habitat. But over time, with studies being done elsewhere, it was found they can tolerate a lot more different situations than you think they can.
Then something happened that surprised the scientists. Turkeys moved into towns and suburbs and even cities, because it turned out that turkeys found trees and fields and feed that they liked in those communities too.
Fred, the Somerville Turkey just flew in from Albuquerque, feeling fresh and oh so perky, gobbling round our town. Walking down Porter Street, flapping those wings, tapping those feet, looking much too cute to eat, whistling a happy tune, eating some fluff to stay real strong. Atop Spring Hill, Fred sings a song. The neighborhood dogs like to bark along with their new turkey friend. Fred, the Somerville Turkey just flew in from Albuquerque, feeling fresh and oh so perky, gobbling round our town. All Fred's cousins live in Brookline. Fred's in Somerville having a great time, going to Honk Fest, playing in a drum line. Fred supports the arts. Fred, the Somerville Turkey just flew in from Albuquerque, feeling fresh and oh so perky, gobbling round our town. Going to a movie at the Somerville Theater, putting a quarter in your expired meter, helping old ladies to cross the street, first in line to volunteer for Art Beat. Fred goes local to spend his cash. Fred does the mash, the monster mash. Fred, the Somerville Turkey.
They roost at night all the time, except when the hen has ones that are too little to fly. Other than that, they go up in trees at night to shelter themselves from predators.
The turkey family slept high up in a big oak in our neighborhood. Good night, turkeys. Good night. Good night. Just flew in from Albuquerque, feeling fresh and oh so perky, our new turkey friend.
Ulysses, what are you
Walking
doing up
down
there?
Porter Street for that I'm just making a video that's gonna get 1,000 views. Whistling in a happy tune.